Welcome to Copilots, the podcast where we watch not just the first episode of a show,
but also the second. Some shows just don't have the best pilot episode, and giving it that second chance might just sway your mind.
Here, we take that chance for you, and let you know our opinion on if a show deserves more than one shot.
I'm Justice. Alongside me is my co-pilot Josh. Now, let's get ready for takeoff. Your in-flight entertainment this week will be Rabbit.
So, Rabbit is a original limited series on YouTube.
Yeah, people still make series for YouTube.
Wild.
Right.
I mean, the crazy part is, I wanted to word that in a way that avoided the term YouTube original because...
Yeah, because it's not...
YouTube original implies that YouTube is
It's part of the fun from the YouTube original bullshit that they do, whatever.
And Rabbit, directed, written, and conceptualized by Kyle Prue, is not that. It's Kyle paying money out of his own pocket, along with an EP, to turn this thing into an actual thing.
Yeah. I mean, there are definitely still a lot of people who do things like that on YouTube, but not things that I'm aware of or can think of off the top of my head, but people do that shit still.
Yeah, it's just less common. That said, this show is very good, and I really wanted to give it a shout out with this review.
Yeah, understandable.
So, I'm going to go back to how I discovered Kyle Prue.
Go ahead, do it.
And that's how we discovered the show. So, there's this magical place on the internet hosted by a Chinese company called TikTok.
Damn, I thought we were talking about 2chan. Even though that's Japanese, but yeah.
TikTok, wonderful place. I accidentally stumbled on a guy who his main draw on TikTok is that he makes lists of ways to annoy men. Things you can say to upset men. That's his main series. Very funny. He has personally attacked me at least once via his lists.
Sucks to be you, because most of the time his lists are aimed about the ideas of toxic masculinity.
Yeah, it was just to say to a man, oh, this reminds me of a drag show I've been to once, when they're watching wrestling unironically.
Perfect.
It's so true, though. It's painful, especially if Goldust is there. Fuck me. But Dustin Rhodes, not Goldust anymore. But yeah, anyways, so that's how I found him. And then he mentioned that he was making a YouTube series called Rabbit. Dropped the original time length of a TikTok video, so a minute.
Yeah, I think so.
That was just a preview for Rabbit and him talking. And that preview was fucking hilarious. It's internalized homophobia. You can't be internalized homophobia if you're not gay. It's internalized homophobia.
Yeah.
Just being one of the best lines from the trailer. So good. Then the show came out. Kind of forgot about it.
Yeah, makes sense. You forget about things a lot.
My brain is not a brain. Forced Justice to watch the first episode with me. And then we decided to review it for the show.
That we did.
And then we accidentally watched 3 episodes instead of 2.
Accident's a strong word.
Accident is a strong word. So I guess that's a spoiler. We like the show.
You already spoiled it when you said it was at the start.
That's fair. Episode 1 is entitled Break My Nose.
Yep. So we start this series with a classic Nokia ringtone. I think it might be Nokia hi-hat or some shit like that.
Dude, I miss my Nokia phone.
Yeah, Nokia ringtones are actually kind of fun. But
also had the best version of that tanks game.
Yeah, and a really nice version of Snake. Probably one of the smoothest Snake playing experiences I have had.
It's wild that we're talking up Nokia prepaid phones from 2006.
Yeah, but
buddy. 2004 even? 2005?
Yeah, Nokia's weird though. I mean, if I remember correctly, Nokia started as a paper mill company.
What?
Yeah. Nokia is just one of those companies that's existed through so many versions because they're just a company that's just we do this thing, and then they would just adapt and change, get into different markets.
I guess that's fair.
Yeah, but I think Nokia started as a paper company, a paper mill company, in the late 1800s.
I can see how the connection is there in the Japanese mind, paper.
Nokia is not Japanese originally.
Oh, is it not?
No, I think it's some Scandinavian country. I might be wrong about that.
That's wild. I could have sworn Nokia was Japanese.
No.
Well,
I know
mind.
for a fact it is not.
Never mind. Exclude my blatant racism.
Yeah, no, Nokia just has a changed through shit. I don't remember what they were before a cell phone company.
Where I blatantly assumed that all tech companies were Japanese unless they were Microsoft.
But no, Nokia,
or 3M, or Intel, or
they eventually just kind of merged with Microsoft, which is why they made specifically Microsoft phones, and then Microsoft with their Microsoft phones. One stopped labeling they were Nokia, despite still using the Nokia products to do so.
Well, I mean,
and then they just stopped making phones.
the funny part is in the phone's like info page, it still listed itself as a Nokia.
Yeah.
It's just like on the box and on the branding, none of it was labeled Nokia.
Yeah.
Good joke, Windows. Honestly, I loved the Windows OS for cell phones.
Yeah, it was a good OS. It was badly supported.
Because nobody except us
Nobody
used
fucking
it.
wanted to do anything with it, yeah.
There were like 3 people that used 4 or 5 people in the world that used the Windows OS, and then we stopped using Windows OS, and now there's like 1 person left with a Windows phone.
But dude, the Windows OS, you had so many apps because people couldn't make official apps for it. I'm not gonna lie, the Windows OS, if you want an app to pirate anything, is the phone to go to, because like you could get so much shit, and for some reason the apps were just broken for it.
Because it was less than 1% of the market share of the
Yeah,
world.
so no one reviewed it to make sure it was good.
Honestly, my favorite thing was how customizable the home screens were.
Yeah, because it used Microsoft 7's window tiles. 7 and 10.
Yeah, I think it was Windows 9 specifically.
Oh, yeah,
because it was the mobile one.
Yeah,
Windows
but
8.
it
Windows
used
8.
the Windows tiles, which, while shit on computer, good on a phone interface.
It was the Windows 8 tiles. That's what it was. Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. I don't think there was a Windows 9.
I don't fucking know, man.
Anyways, it opens with a Nokia ringtone on a black screen.
Yes. And so the main guy answers it, and he says he's Rabbit, and he's a go-getter. So we know our main character is named Rabbit.
And we in this scene, we get him standing on a rooftop
Yes.
in what appears to be LA.
Yeah, and he's wearing like business casual, like black slacks, white shirt.
And a leather coat.
Yeah,
jacket.
leather coat, and 2 leather gloves.
Fingerlesses, right?
No, not fingerless.
Oh, backless.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, they have the back of the hand cut out and the knuckles cut out, but other than that, the rest is there.
Yeah. So he's greeted by his boss, which we find out he's a go-getter, like you said.
Yeah. I don't really know if he's a boss or he really just feels like a go-between, like almost like a bounty board-esque situation.
Well, his character name is Dispatch.
Yeah.
So you're probably closer to right than me.
Yeah.
So Dispatch asks, "How's your day going?" Rabbit goes, "Going good. How's my night gonna go?"
Yeah. And Dispatch is like, need you to break somebody's nose.
Yeah, we got one job. Just need you to go break somebody's nose. And Rabbit's instantly like, "Oh, mafia thing? Mafia stuff? Gang stuff?"
And Dispatch is like, no, it's the client's nose.
And he's like,
What?
he's very confused by it. Dispatcher's like, maybe she has a custody hearing. And he's like, dude, that's dark.
But speaking of kids, how are your kids? And then Dispatch is like, no personal questions. So Rabbit then decides to ask what could be also a personal question.
But he's like, can I ask an existential question then?
Yeah. And he asks Dispatch what Dispatch's least favorite thing about themselves is.
And then Dispatch is like, you go first.
Yeah, Dispatch is like, I don't know, you go first. And
it should be noted by this point in the episode, you're already very aware of Dispatch's character. He just wants to get off the phone as fast as possible.
Well, the moment he asks that question, we cut to him, we see him holding the phone, rolls his eyes, puts the phone kind of down above the desk, and is just waiting for Rabbit to stop speaking.
Yeah, and so Rabbit goes on this tirade about how he considers himself an inconsiderate person. Sometimes he doesn't view other people as people.
He sometimes just catches himself thinking of people as like humans. Like, humans don't like it when you do this, or humans don't like it when you do that. Which he's like, that's not right. They're not humans. They're other people.
And then Dispatch picks the phone back up, and Rabbit's like, so what's your least favorite thing? And Dispatch just goes, I'm a picky eater, and then just slams the phone shut.
Yes. So then Rabbit hangs up the phone.
Mm-hmm.
And he walks over to a guy who's just like has the shit beat out of him, leaning up against the exit for the roof.
So I want to be clear here. You say leaning up, but it's really like his head and shoulders are against the wall.
Yeah, someone has just placed his body there.
I don't want to use a wrestling thing, but it's like it's like what a wrestler looks like after you splash him against a barricade. Like that. That's how they lay, with only their neck and shoulders up against it.
And Rabbit apologizes.
He's like, that was so rude of me.
Now where were we? And then he crouches down. He's like, bother Julie something or other.
If you ever bother Julie Corinzo again, I'll kill you? I don't know. They weren't very clear on the details.
Yeah. So he's beat the shit out of this guy as a message to be like, hey, stop being creepy or whatever. Or maybe the guy wasn't a creep. Maybe the guy's a perfectly normal guy and just was hired by someone to get the shit, like, to get his shit pushed in. Who knows?
Yeah, I mean, I get very, like, Deadpool 1 vibes from this scene.
I understand that.
Yeah. The movie Deadpool, the first Deadpool movie. Just so we're clear. Music plays. Mm-hmm. Rabbit walks out of the shot. Title card drops. Mm-hmm. The episode title card drops. I love that this show has an episode title card.
Yes. So we start our next scene with a girl looking at her reflection in a spoon. Back of a spoon, like pushing her nose up and all that. Like,
and then there's a knock on her door.
So she rushes to it.
And opens it, and Rabbit's standing there. And Rabbit goes, "Did you hire a professional?"
And she looks confused for a moment, and then it's like, oh,
grabs her phone. Yeah.
And she's like, no, I hired a pro.
And he's like, okay, cool.
And she's like, did I do it right? Is that the code? And
he's like, yeah, cool. And she's like, I don't think anybody would ever actually say that. He's like,
I think that's the point.
And she's still confused by this. I don't want to say she plays a ditzy character, but she's kind of a ditzy character.
Yeah, so he walks in.
And she has the living room, like, coated in plastic.
Yep.
Kind of looking like an episode of Dexter here.
Which he makes a joke about.
Oh, yeah, okay, that's right.
I think it's that or Hannibal Lecter. He makes a joke about something like that.
And she has, like, a bunch of stuff spread out on the counter, like, different things to ostensibly break her nose with.
Yes, she tells him that she has everything set up and is ready. And he's looking over, and the first thing he picks up that she has as a potential break my nose item is a pasta maker?
Yes.
He's like, you want me to break your nose with this? And she's like, I don't know, I thought I just have options. So then he picks up like some brass knuckles and he's like, with these? And she's like, I hired a professional, not a comic relief.
Not a prop comic.
Not a prop comic, yeah.
The prop comic bit is actually...
And he's like, well, because I'm a professional, I looked some stuff up. And he pulls out a toolbox and just pulls a hammer out of him. And he's like...
I thought it was a tool bag.
No, it was one of the shitty plastic little boxes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
For some reason, it was like, I spent maybe $10 and bought like the cheapest.
And he pulls out a hammer, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so he has her sit down, and he has the hammer, and he's kind of like filling her nose with his hand.
And she's like, I paid you to break my nose, not fondle it.
He's like, I'm trying to find the bone.
Yeah.
And then he gets into a conversation with her. He's like, why do you even want your nose broken?
Yeah,
like,
why?
Your nose looks fine.
And she scoffs when he says that her nose looks fine. Like, he's fondling it, and he makes some comment about how her nose seems fine. She scoffs, and then he asks why she wants her nose broken.
And then she, like, does this thing where she presses on the front of her nose to make it like, almost like a pig nose.
Mm-hmm.
But she's...
It's the pixie nose thing.
The pixie, yeah. The Whoville nose.
Mm-hmm. As they refer to it very shortly.
As Rabbit refers to it. And she's like, because curvy noses are in.
And like, I can't afford a nose job, but insurance will pay for it if it's... from an accident.
If it's reconstruction.
Yeah, if it's reconstructive.
It's reconstructive. And he's like, okay, whatever. He's like trying to reason with her. He's like being a reasonable human being. And she's like, look, I paid up front so I couldn't back out of it.
Yeah, because when he asks, like, so you want your nose to be like a Whoville nose? She's like, yeah. He's like, it's in style. I was like, what about when it's not? And I'm supposed to come back and put the bone back in?
I don't think that's how that works.
Yeah.
Yeah, so she then snaps like, I didn't pay in advance so I couldn't back out of it.
Yeah, she was like, I paid in advance, so I couldn't do that. And it's like, fine, on three.
Count to three. And she says 1, and he smacks her. Like, this is the type of cinematic violence that I think would get described as ultra violence. Like,
because it's sudden and impactful, and there's almost no need for it.
It's a very violent hit.
Mm-hmm.
It's very good acting on both their parts.
Yeah. So he breaks her nose and is like, oh, that's a clean break.
Let me know if the surgeon has any notes on that.
Yeah. And she, is just like, fuck. And just like,
She crawls over to a mirror and then hysterically repeats to herself, I think I'll look better. I think I'll look better.
Yeah.
And then Rabbit's getting ready to leave. He's like, okay, look, this was all very traumatizing.
Let me know if you want me to come back and rip your ears off.
Or something.
Yeah.
And then she stops looking at herself in the mirror and she goes, what? What did you say?
And he's like, nothing. She's like, no. What'd you say? Like,
he's like, it was just a joke.
He's like,
all jokes are rooted in truth.
Well, at first she says, what's wrong with my ears? He's like, nothing. There's nothing wrong with your ears. And she's like, no. Every joke is rooted in truth. And she's like,
I can't even see your ears.
Well, that also comes up.
Oh, yeah.
Like right after this line, which is like, she's like, he was like, it's just a joke. She's like, I don't get it. Explain it to me. He's like, well, don't some women get their ears sewn back?
A thing I've never heard of.
I have.
I have never heard of this fashion trend. It's fucking wild.
Oh, yeah, no, it's like the things people do to fit into a norm or be attractive is ridiculous. I mean, like, if that's something you want to do it, but don't do it for like any other reason than yourself. Like, obviously.
I don't think there's any reason to do it. If it looks visually like I'm thinking it would look, why would you do that to yourself? It sounds so painful.
I don't know, man. Some people get elf ears.
I understand. And some people file their teeth down.
Yeah.
Both of those things sound unnecessarily painful.
Yeah, but I'm saying, like, if you want a body mod. It's your fucking life. Do it. I don't have any preference for that. That's not something I would ever do. But, like, hey, it's your fucking body. It's your fucking life. Do what you want. Just don't let other people pressure you into it.
Speaking of being pressured into it.
Well,
Rabbit.
When he mentioned the ear sewn back, she's like,
Do you think my ears need sewing back?
No, she's like, oh my god, my ears, I'm like an elephant or Obama.
Oh, yeah.
And he's like, and then he's like, no, I can't even see your ears, which is true. We haven't been able to see her ears. Her hair has been down this whole time.
Yeah.
Which also, I mean, she was fairly prepared. She had the plastic laid out and tools to break her nose with. I feel like if you want to avoid a mess,
You tie your hair
you
back?
tie your hair up, right? Just in case blood gets everywhere. Like, you don't know how he's going to break your nose. You tie your hair up.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe she actually does have a thing about her ears, because this was a very quick, out the drop of a hat, like, oh shit, my ears are bad too. Okay, fine.
And then she, like, grabs his hands and puts them on either side of her head.
Mhm.
And she's like, rip them off.
And he's like, what? She's like, rip them off. He's like, you didn't pay for them. She's like, I'll pay for them.
She's like, $500 cash now. And he's like, oh, that's later, sorry.
Yeah,
He goes,
he's like, you don't need to do this. The more you change yourself, the less of an individual you are. You're already beautiful. And he's like, you think I'm beautiful? He's like, well, not right now. But like,
because
when I came
got
in.
a broken, bloody nose.
Yeah. And she's like, rub him off. He's like, you're being crazy. And she's like,
She just snaps here.
and she's like, did you say I'm being crazy? He's like, and she's like, that's a blanket term used by men for generations to invalidate women's feelings and thoughts and actions and stuff like that. And he's like, I'm not supposed to call you crazy even when you're asking me to rip your ears off. And then she puts his hands on her ears and he's like, $500, $600.
We did miss a line because he's like, "What are you gonna say when you go to the ER? That you were mugged by a man with a cartilage bias?"
Yeah.
Damn
And
it.
so she grabs his hands, puts them on her ears, and tells him $600.
He's like, "Both of them?" She goes, "No, you'll probably only have to rip one. They'll have to match them." And he's like, "I don't know if that's how that works."
Yeah. So then she's like, $600. And he's like, $7? And then we cut to him in an elevator.
And he's got blood on the cuff of his sleeve.
So he's adjusting his jacket over it. And then we end the episode with him looking up into the mirrored ceiling of the elevator and pushing his nose up.
And then we get an outro song and credits.
Yep.
What is your take on Rabbit?
So both of our episodes for this that we've watched combined are probably 20 minutes at most.
Like, yeah, 21.
I think the first one's like 9 and the second one's like 6. So I think it's more like 15, but...
I think it's... Anyways, at longest, it's 20 minutes with the
Mhm.
credits.
And honestly, like, it's just funny. Like, the dialogue is so tightly knit together that is what sells the show, because obviously there's not a lot going on in the first episode. It's really just equivocally 2 scenes,
Yeah.
but with such nice, tight dialogue writing.
2 scenes and 4 actors. That's the entire first episode.
Yeah.
And one actor has 0 lines. He just lays there after getting his shit kicked in.
And weakly nods his head.
Yeah, so that's episode 1. To me, the show is both swiftly violent, but intensely funny.
Yeah, I would agree.
Like, this is... You guys remember Wayne?
Ah, Wayne.
This is like...
Wayne also likes hammers.
This is like if you distilled Wayne's episodes down into 10 minutes.
Kinda, yeah.
Like, obviously the story is different.
Yeah,
But
but
the
like...
feel is like, this is Wayne in 10 minutes.
Yeah, Wayne also had really, really great dialogue and was like super tightly written.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the time. Obviously, it's a show that has like an hour-long episode. You're going to have moments where it's not as tightly written.
Yeah, like everything with the principal.
Everything with the principal is fantastic, though.
It's all fantastic, but like his backstory that's revealed in like the second to last episode of the season, fucking ridiculous.
You know who has the best backstory in that, though? The sheriff.
Yes.
Fucking like a Bangkok prison.
Oh, that's who I was talking about. Sorry, the sheriff.
no.
Oh god.
Fucking Bangkok prison.
Anyways, so yeah.
Fucking has murdered multiple men. And it's just like, I'm just a small town sheriff.
Yeah. So honestly, all 3 of the actors that have lines in this episode deliver everything like perfectly.
Yeah, they fit
There was-
the characterization that was given.
There was not a better delivery that could have been done. All 3 of these actors were peak performance.
Yeah, like, so we didn't really talk about the characters much because there's not much there. Like to talk about.
No, but, like, so we've watched the first 3 episodes. Spoiler.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not going to dive into any information from episode 3, but what I want to say is Rabbit, though, is developing very strongly as a character. Like,
Yes, but as I was going to say, in this first episode, it's very easy to see that Rabbit is kind of just, at the least, disaffected.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he doesn't understand other people, as kind of shown with how he's trying to figure out why she wants her nose broken. Like, I understand it. I think it's dumb, but I understand it. But he
Like-
cannot grasp the idea of it.
I think not only, like, is he broken in some way,
Mhm.
but I think he's, like, keep in mind, this is a job for him.
Yeah.
He's a go-getter. It's like TaskRabbit, like the app TaskRabbit,
Yeah.
which is probably why his name is Rabbit.
Mm-hmm.
But, well, actually, we learned something about that in episode 3.
Yeah.
But he is also like almost forced into this type of job just based on like needing a job.
Yeah.
Which, like, the fact that I think what I'm saying is the fact that this could be a job says a lot about our world just in general.
I mean,
a lot about capitalism in general.
I mean, technically, is a job.
Yeah, they're called fixers, I think.
Yeah.
Because TaskRabbit wouldn't let you break somebody's nose as part of your job.
Yeah, but there are people who do shit like that.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah.
Like mercenary work, like low-level mercenary work, basically. Like, that shit does exist. It just isn't super popular or well-known. And the fact that it does exist is very much an indicator that we live in a fucked up world.
Yep. Ready to go to episode 2?
Yeah. Episode 2. Job du jour.
Actually, before we dive into episode 2, I want to hit back on one thing in episode 1.
Episode 1. Break my nose.
I guess it actually ties across both episodes.
Episode 1.5. Job du nose.
So, at the beginning of episode 1, Dispatch, like, quickly shuts him down when he asks about personal questions. And, like, it kind of comes across as Dispatch being rude.
Yeah, but I mean, it
very
much feels like a business thing to me.
In episode 2 and in episode 3 as well, Rabbit says the words, no personal questions.
Yeah, like, it is an established rule. I can't talk about myself. Which, makes sense given the fact that we've seen in just the first episode alone, he beat the shit out of a man, then he broke someone's nose to commit insurance fraud. The only
two jobs we see in episode 1 are both jobs related to physical violence and crime.
Yes. So, technically breaking someone's nose, if they ask for it, isn't a crime unless they choose to press charges later, but if you've entered an agreement, you should be fine in most states. However, doing it to technically defraud our insurance company to pay for reconstructive surgery is illegal.
Yeah.
Not the nose breaking part, though. That's the fun bit there.
I don't know.
Like I said, it depends on where you're at in the U.S.
The city or state
in California
can choose to also press charges without...
Yes, but very, very often you will not get a conviction on something like that if someone chooses not to press charges and are a willing participant or something like that, as long as it can be proven they've done so in
Anyways,
a cohesive state of mind.
Episode 2, Job du jour.
Yes, this episode starts with a car pulling up in a desert, a very nice guitar line, and then Rabbit gets out of the car.
I called it Scrubland, like the California Scrubland.
It's an arid wasteland, so.
It's California. It's not a city in California. Obviously, this is what it looks like.
Yeah. And he walks to the back door, opens it, and pulls out a small chihuahua.
Yeah.
And then he sets it on the ground, and he gets a call from dispatch. And dispatch is like, is it done? He's like, yeah. And dispatch is like, how? He's like, I hit it with a large hammer? And dispatch is just like, good job, you fucking sociopath.
Yep. Then dispatch goes, I have another job for you if you're interested.
Now, the important thing here is, at no point in this does he hit that dog with a hammer. He just sets it down in the desert and stares at it. And before we cut to our intro card for this episode, the dog tilts its head.
Yep. And then we cut to our intro.
So, assumedly, he just abandons the dog in the desert because he couldn't bring himself to murder a dog.
I actually like the thing that's wrong because outside knowledge, I know Kyle specifically mentioned that the dog made more money shooting these 6 episodes than he did.
Okay, so the dog probably comes back.
So
maybe
I assume the dog comes back because I don't... Yeah.
So then, after our title card, we are in a cafe. We see a woman just sitting at a table reading a newspaper.
And then she makes eye contact with Rabbit, who is sitting a table away.
And just looking at her, and she looks at him and she's like, no. He's like, no, that's not what. And she's like, I'm waiting for someone.
And he goes, I'm kind of the person you're waiting for. She's like, oh, you're my fiance? And he's like, you don't have a fiance.
She's like, you're my fiance, Mark. He's like, you don't have a fiance.
And then he pulls a note card out. And it's a note card.
Well, no, he says that, and she looks at him. He's like, that's not the way I wanted to start this. And then he pulls out a note card.
And it's a note card from Mark. Mm-hmm. And like, I assume it was supposed to have like notes like about the relationship on it. But it just says, it's over.
Frowny face. Mark.
And so he starts just bullshitting. Like,
yeah. And she's like, are you a surrogate here to break up with me for Mark? And he's like, well, yes.
And she's like, and you couldn't dress better?
Yeah. You look like you're in a Mormon biker gang.
Yes.
Which honestly,
that lie.
Accurate.
You look like you're in a Mormon biker gang.
And he's like, this isn't about me. This is about, she's like, really? Because I thought you were supposed to say this isn't you, it's me. And he's like, no. You're taking this all really well. And so she's looking at him, and she's kind of very deadpan, given this entire thing. Like, not deadpan, but she has no real big emotions to it.
Yeah, and then she kind of, like, starts pushing on him for his personal details. She's
like,
Aren't you gonna personalize this for me at all?
Yeah, you're not even gonna personalize this for me at all. This is the worst day of my life. My fiance sends a teenager to break up with me.
He's like, I'm not a teenager.
Yeah, and so then she asks about the customized experience. He's like, I can't share any
Personal details.
Yeah.
And then she's like, well, what is your name? And he goes, Rabbit. And she's like, no, it isn't.
He's like, and I do what people pay me to.
I'm a freelancer.
She's like, so like TaskRabbit. He's like,
I
do things TaskRabbit won't do.
And she's like, oh, so is this a normal day for you then? And he's like, no, this is actually the first breakup I've done.
That makes sense.
And then she starts to psychoanalyze him.
Yeah, she's like, why this? And he's like, well, it's either this or Grubhub. And she goes, no, it isn't.
And then she's like, you're an alcoholic, aren't you? A recovering alcoholic. You do this to distract yourself. And he's like,
before that, because she had just asked him what he did.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, well, what do you do? And she's like, I'm a criminologist. More often than not, I'm a professional witness.
Yeah.
Which, means she's an expert in the field, and she's hired on by people generally to give supporting information to support their side of a case.
Expert testimony.
Yes.
Hence why they're called expert witnesses.
Mm-hmm. Expert witnesses are kind of fucking dumb.
Yes.
Like,
courts should have
an impartial third party who is willing to offer information upon facts without actually knowing the details of the case, but giving presented information and then asking what is in regards to, and then having to display their information for that, instead of being hired out by one party that's willing to pay them a fuck ton of money. That way they specifically spin the details of what they're referring to in one specific manner.
This. You can't see me, but I've just been pointing at justice this entire time. This. He literally stole the thoughts out of my brain.
The fact that we pay people to offer their professional opinion in a legal situation in the courtroom, not as the contract negotiation or anything like that, is ridiculous. Yeah. And I hate the way our government works.
Yeah. Anyways, that's what she does. She doesn't sell lies, but she bends the truth for a living.
Yeah, she sells half-truths, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And then she starts beginning to break him down. She's like, she pegs him as a recovering substance abuser. Like, originally...
She didn't peg it down what it was yet, but then she orders him a drink.
Well, so she calls it alcohol, and they're talking, and he's just like, it's not alcohol. I don't drink.
Yeah. And we got on that topic because she orders him a drink, and he goes,
yes.
I'll just have seltzer, after the waitress asks for his ID.
Because she was trying to use that to get him to...
reveal his name.
And he's like, I don't bring my wallet with me. I'm a professional.
I know.
I'll just have a soda water.
He doesn't say I'm a professional. He goes, I know my rights. She goes, no, you don't.
Yeah, because very shortly after here, she asks if he does a lot of illegal jobs, and he's like, I don't know. I'm not really a law knower.
I'm not really a law knower is such a good sentence.
Yeah. So then once he gets the soda water, order, she starts pegging him as some form of substance abuser. She calls him a recovering alcoholic, and he's like,
she specifically calls him a dry alcoholic.
Well, so she calls him a recovering alcoholic, and he's like, no. And she keeps going on, and she's talking about how he uses this job to fill his sober hours. And that while he may not be actually drinking anymore, he is a dry alcoholic, by which it means that he is taking something and replacing that with the same thing he did for his alcohol. He is using that as a dependency, as a crutch, and using it in a very similar manner.
To which Rabbit, like me, goes, I don't even know what that means.
Yes. And so she explains it to him. She's like, because you don't drink anymore, you use this to fill the period where you're not drinking and to make yourself feel better about things. And he's like, it wasn't alcohol.
And then she pegs him as a former coke addict. And he denies this, but doesn't clarify.
And she just keeps going on about him being a coke addict. And he starts to actually kind of get visibly upset. And she literally calls him out on it and is like, oh, are you about to cry?
You're breaking up with me for my fiance, and you're the one about to cry.
Yeah. So when she points out that he is visibly upset, he just starts to repeat the breakup thing that he did, because after he looked at Mark's note, he was like, he improv thought about it. He was like, Mark's really enjoyed these last few years with you. So he starts to repeat that. And she breaks him off just to critique him more.
Yeah, and then he's like, okay, look, you don't have a fiance anymore. I'm leaving.
You're broken up with. It's done. Adieu, Liz.
And then he gets up and leaves in a huff. And we kind of leave the camera on Liz.
Mm-hmm.
And then he comes back into frame and he's like, you know what? You're actually, you do the same thing I do for a living. And she's like, tell the truth?
She's like, I do it in court, under oath. It's honorable. And he's like,
no, you do
people,
what people
pay you
to do something, and you do it. And she's like, yeah, but under oath. Therefore, it's an honest living.
And he's like, no, you only work for people who can afford to pay you. and like, use your professional witnessing stuff in their advantage, even if it's not necessarily needed, or if it's not actually good. If they are the party in the wrong, she still does the job, is what he's saying.
And she's like, yeah, that's why it's a job.
Yeah, they wouldn't, that's why they pay me. And he's like, well, have you ever sent anyone to the chair? And she's like, she laughs, and she's like,
We're in
California. You really don't know laws, do you?
And then he storms off again.
Well, he storms off again. He's like, you know what? You'll be fine. Mark had a good idea. Something like that.
Yeah. So he leaves the cafe. The waitress comes up to Liz and goes, where's Mark? And who is that?
And Liz stands up, puts her purse on her shoulder, and she's just like, you were right. I should have never proposed to Mark.
And that's the end of this episode.
Mm-hmm.
Very good episode. Both this and the first episode, just amazingly well done.
Agreed.
Again, this episode only has 4 characters in it. 5 if you count the dog.
Yeah, 5 if you count a dog.
Something I didn't mention at the top of the show, which I meant to. Apparently, Kyle Prue is a decently well-regarded young adult fantasy author.
I don't know if I can know.
He wrote a superpower series called the Feud Trilogy. The Sparks, the Flames, the Ashes.
Those do sound like young adult book names.
Mm-hmm. They specifically sound like young adult book names.
Very, very much so, yeah.
Honestly, they're right up there with Hunger Games as words that sound like young adult book names.
Yeah. Or every Scott Westerfeld book ever.
Hey, you take that back. Peeps is amazing. Actually, a lot of his shit's amazing.
Yeah, I'm not saying they're bad. I'm just saying
that's fair. Young adult stuff isn't bad by virtue of being young adult.
Yeah, they just
fiction.
have kind of dumb names most of the fucking time.
They also have a very almost prog metal style of naming themselves. They just pick one word and that is them.
I mean, Westerfeld has an entire book series called The Midnighters.
Uglies, pretties,
Specials,
yeah,
extras.
Peeps.
Yeah.
Anyways, what do you think of episode 2?
Still really good.
I would say it's not quite as good as episode 1, but it's still very enjoyable.
I think this one has some really good lines, like the calling him a Mormon biker.
You look like you're in a Mormon biker gang.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that joke.
Say this to a man wearing a leather coat and dress clothes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just stealing Kyle Prue's own thing. No, I love this show.
And the dialogue for this one was also still very tight and neat.
Yeah, the dialogue never lets up. Episode 3's dialogue is probably the tightest it gets.
Mm-hmm.
Such a good...
I would also argue episode 3, when we get to it, probably utilizes quiet the best. Because most of the dialogue really doesn't stop. But 3 is 15 minutes long.
And it has quiet moments.
Mm-hmm.
3 also, we find out that the go-getters potentially all have animal-related names,
Yeah, maybe. Who knows?
Because we get one other go-getter's name. I don't remember what it was, but it was an animal of some sort.
Yeah.
Maybe armadillo?
No, that was not it.
Yeah, you're right. I don't remember what it was.
Yeah.
Anyways, show's great. You should go watch it because as of this recording, the first episode has less than 60,000 views.
Which is fucking crazy.
And then episodes 2 and 3 are sub 35K.
Yeah,
episode 3 just came out Sunday.
Yeah.
It comes out on a bi-weekly basis.
Yeah, but it is really fucking great. And definitely deserves more views than I don't know, any odd one out episode thing. That's a thing, right?
I have no idea. I've never heard of it, but it sounds like a thing that exists.
Honestly, I think I've just seen streamers react to it. Several people in a room, and then they try to find the person that is not like the others.
Oh, it's like that new cooking show.
Yeah.
Rat in the Kitchen.
And if they win, they win if they get the mole out.
Yeah, and then if they
The
don't,
mole
the
stays
mole
in,
wins.
yeah.
Yeah. Just like Rat in the Kitchen.
Yeah, I think the YouTube thingy has been around a lot longer.
Oh yeah, because Rat in the Kitchen's 4 or 5 episodes in now.
And it's so fucking dumb. At least Odd One Out, they change up
the concept?
Not the concept. The concept's the same, but
the situation.
The situation,
yeah. That's what I meant
the majority of
when
them
I
are
said
supposed
concept.
to be. Yeah.
Because Rat in the Kitchen is obviously always a cooking show. Forever and ever.
Yeah, and also in that, someone's actively sabotaging them, whereas in that thingy, it's really just who lies well?
Okay. I think I know what you're talking about now.
It's almost a hidden trader game.
Yeah.
Actually, it is. It's just a hidden trader game.
Which just means it's always you. You're always the odd one out. Anyways, if you don't want to be the odd one out, you can reach out to us at our email, copilotsreview@gmail.com.
You can find us on Twitter @copilotsreview.
You can find us on our website at copilotsreview.simplecast.com.
which has a link to our Gmail, our Twitter, our YouTube, and our Discord.
And our secret second email. No.
That's not linked there. But we do have a secret second email. That is canon. That is a thing we have.
We mentioned it in an episode. We gave it out. We
did. We told you guys what it was.
I don't remember what it is, but it exists.
And also, if you could leave a review on whichever podcast thingy you're listening on, that would be fantastic. It helps recommend our show to other people.
And then we'll read your review out on the podcast.
If you want us to. If you don't, throw it in your review, not to fucking talk about you.
Additionally, if typing a review is too much work, just go out and tell a couple people, hey, this podcast doesn't suck. You should listen to it.
Or be like, hey, this podcast doesn't suck. But in your head, be like, man, this podcast is so much fucking shit. I need someone else to suffer. Because we all know what that's like. And I wouldn't blame you for doing that to someone.
But also make sure you don't do that to your friends. Specifically because if you tell your friends you like something, they will never ever check it out. Right, Justice? Have you got around to that Alien podcast Chris linked you yet?
No, because I lost the link. And also, when he mentioned it, I was like, I might check it out because I'm not super interested in alien stuff.
You know, it's funny because, like, System Mastery made that joke.
Mm-hmm.
But another podcast I listened to also made that exact same joke this week.
Fun.
I wonder if it's just like a meme I'm missing on the internet right now.
I honestly don't know. I generally check out the things my friends tell me to.
Same, actually.
The only ones I don't do are when you suggest something, because when you do so, you normally suggest it into the ground for like a good 2 weeks.
Because you don't ever...
Also, because even if I try to check something out for it, and then I'm just like, it doesn't interest me, you still insist that I keep looking at it or watching it, even though I'm like, I don't know, man, it just didn't capture my attention. You just didn't give it long enough.
I mean, to be fair, in some cases, that's definitively true. Otherwise, you just go out of your way not to listen to deep cuts.
I did! I listened to like 2 episodes. I just didn't like it. Wait, deep cuts. I was thinking of Flash Forward. Deep cuts I listened to like very specific episodes about.
That's how I started with deep cuts. I started with listening to very specific episodes.
I have no interest in listening to anything that I'm not specifically interested in. I'm not a huge fan of the hosts. I dislike how they plug in their audio because it's very imbalanced. It's a bad like level mix.
Yeah, understandable.
And I hate the meme shit at the end. And I hate running into it.
It's not on every episode.
I know. That makes it worse. If it was at the end of every episode, I could just skip like the last 40 minutes.
Anyways.
I dislike memes.
Thanks for flying with us. And please fly again.
Memes are banned from the airline.
Memes are not banned from the airline. Don't listen to them. Leave us your dankest memes on the Discord.